There's a first time for everything, brother. But like I said, we're not basing our life off of statistics.
But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results.
Justin Fields' time as the starting quarterback with the Jets is over. And if you're Justin Fields, there's no way that you can hear those comments and think that organizationally there's any belief in you.
One of the hardest parts of my job is whenever there's a team that is so incompetent in so many different ways, and I have to make sure I capture each and every bit of incompetence and cram it into one video that ideally doesn't exceed 18 to 20 minutes. And well, when it comes to a team like the New York Jets, it is practically impossible to do that because we're talking about an NFL team that allegedly made roster decisions based on Madden ratings, a team where, according to multiple reports, an 18-year-old Harvard student sits in personnel meetings and his opinions carry the same weight as experienced executives. A team where the former general manager, who had a great track record with drafting, reportedly said that I answer to a teenager. That team is the New York Jets, and right now they're 0-7, the only winless team in the NFL. Their owner just publicly threw their $40 million quarterback under the bus. But here's what makes this story absolutely insane, and stick with me because this is going somewhere that you just wouldn't expect. The quarterback they're blaming right now might not even be the problem, and more importantly, we need to talk about whether the first-year head coach they're protecting might actually be one of the worst game managers in the NFL. I'm talking about a franchise so dysfunctional that last December, The Athletic published a report claiming that owner Woody Johnson's son, Brick Johnson, has been sitting in team meetings, and that Woody cites things that his sons read online as if they had the same merit as professional scouts. The report even alleged that the Jets killed a trade for Jerry Jeudy because they didn't think his Madden video game rating was high enough. Now, Woody Johnson denied all of this, calling it a typical smear piece that's unsubstantiated, but whether it's true or not, this is the reputation that the New York Jets have built. This is how some people view their organization, but do you know how their fans currently feel about the organization?
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I hate this team.
Now, real quick, before we get to this content, this video is sponsored. For those of you guys that didn't skip this sponsor and took my opening night play, congratulations on 11xing your money. Here's some people that DM'd me about their success. Let me know in the comment section down below if you took this play so I could show you some love, because we swept the opening night of the NBA season. Now, I have additional plays that I will be posting on my Instagram page at The Flight Mike and in the WAP link in the description down below, where we've been profiting daily in our Discord server. But I'm also going to give you a play in this video. First, use my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 in lineups when you make a play of $5 or more. And for tonight, I'm rolling with these plays. So I have Justin Jefferson getting at least 63 receiving yards. I have Ladd McConkey getting 40 receiving yards, and Jackson Dart throwing at least one pass TD. Now, I give away additional plays on my Instagram page and in our Discord community in the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for sponsoring today's video. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? There's context that you need to understand about what's happening right now with Justin Fields and Aaron Glenn, because this isn't the first time the New York Jets have destroyed something good. Let me take you back 1 year. In 2024, the New York Jets had everything. They had Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time MVP, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. They had an elite defense under head coach Robert Saleh, a defensive guru whose unit ranked 4th, 3rd, and 2nd in yards allowed over his final 3 seasons. They traded for Devontae Adams, which was Rodgers' favorite target from Green Bay. They already had Garrett Wilson, who was coming off of back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. On paper, this team should have made the playoffs. Instead, they went 5-12. And here's where it gets really interesting, because now, 1 year later, both Rodgers and Saleh are both gone from New York, and both of them are winning. Aaron Rodgers is currently 4-2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, throwing 4 touchdowns against his former team in week 1 alone. The Steelers are sitting atop the AFC North. Meanwhile, Saleh might not be coaching right now, but his defense in New York was elite right up until the moment he got fired. The Jets ranked 6th in defensive EPA per play through week 5 of 2024 with Saleh. After he was fired, they ranked 30th over the rest of the season. Think about that. The Jets had a Hall of Fame quarterback and a defensive-minded head coach with an elite defense. Both left, and both are succeeding or succeeded elsewhere. And the Jets, they're 0-7, the worst start by a first-year head coach in franchise history. So what happened in 2024? Well, according to ESPN, things got toxic fast. Reports indicated that Rodgers and Adams were literally heard talking between plays, with Rodgers soliciting input from Adams on what routes he wanted to run. One team source said that it frustrated people at times, and it got worse. Garrett Wilson, who had been the Jets' top receiver, saw his role completely diminish after the Adams trade. Wilson had 67 targets in the first 6 games. After Adams arrived, Adams got 114 targets in just 11 games, while Wilson only got 87. The chemistry was so bad that Wilson admitted in September that he hasn't even talked to Rodgers since he left the team, and he told reporters, "I ain't talked to Aaron since he left, so wish him the best this season. Yeah, but we haven't chopped it up since he left." And then there was Saleh. After starting 2-3, Woody Johnson fired him. The defense immediately got worse, but according to Woody Johnson, he fired Saleh because he wanted to give one of the most talented teams ever assembled the best chance to win. So let me get this straight. The Jets had a defensive coach whose defense was elite, fired him, the defense collapsed, and then they hired another defensive coach? Enter Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn came to the Jets with a massive reputation. Former Lions defensive coordinator, defensive guru, a player's coach who spent 8 years in the NFL. Woody Johnson knew him from way back when Glenn played for the Jets in the 90s. This was supposed to be the guy who finally turned things around. This was supposed to be the New York Jets equivalent of Dan Campbell. And on the opening day of the 2025 season, it looked like maybe, just maybe, the Jets had finally figured it out. They signed Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million contract. $30 million guaranteed, reuniting Justin Fields with his college wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. And in week 1 against his former team, Pittsburgh, Fields looked fantastic. The Jets scored 32 points. Fields was efficient and everything clicked. But then everything fell apart. And this is where we need to talk about what's actually been happening this season, because it's really easy to throw Justin Fields under the bus. This is about a head coach who might be in way over his head. Let's start with the numbers. The Jets currently rank 29th in yards per game at 271.3 and 27th in points per game at 18.4. They've scored just 12 touchdowns in 7 games. On defense, they rank 22nd in yards allowed and 31st in points allowed. They have a -9 turnover ratio, which is the worst in the entire league. They were the only team in the past 20 years to start 0-4 with 0 forced turnovers. But the real story isn't the stats, it's what's happening on the sidelines. It's the coaching decisions that are costing this team games, and it all came to a head in week 6 against Denver in London. Let me walk you through what might be the most embarrassing coaching sequence I've ever seen in professional football. The Jets had the ball late in the first half. They were trailing 10-6, had some momentum, and faced 4th and 1 at their own 37-yard line with just over a minute left. Glenn called a timeout to discuss it, then decided to run a fake punt, and it worked! The Jets converted, got to around midfield, and had about 37 seconds left with the timeout in their pocket. This is where any competent NFL head coach says, okay, we've got a chance to get into field goal range here, maybe even score a touchdown. But not Aaron Glenn. Instead, Glenn decided to just let the clock run out. He didn't call another play. He didn't attempt a Hail Mary. He didn't try to get into field goal range. He just gave up. And cameras caught what happened next. Garrett Wilson, the Jets star receiver, the guy who had just put up his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season, which, by the way, these are the most impressive 1,000-yard seasons ever because it's with multiple different quarterbacks in crazy circumstances. But I digress. Garrett Wilson was so pissed off. I mean, he was caught on camera giving Glenn an earful as they walked off the field, clearly screaming at his coach about the decision. You could see the frustration, the disbelief, the what the hell are we doing look on Garrett Wilson's face. After the game, Wilson was asked about it, and his response was damning.
I just didn't know exactly what the plan was. Once I figured it out, I was disappointed. I'll just say that. So
your best player doesn't know what the plan is? Your star receiver is screaming at you on the sideline on national television? And Aaron Glenn's explanation was he just didn't want to risk giving Denver the ball back with time to kick a field goal. But wait, it gets worse, because the very next week, Glenn admitted to reporters that he wished he had thrown a Hail Mary at the end of that half. He literally said,
I wish I could have took the clock down to 5 seconds and just threw a Hail Mary, to be honest with you. situation.
So he knew he made the wrong decision. He acknowledged it publicly. This was his chance to learn, to show growth. And then against Carolina the following week, Glenn had the exact same situation. Ball at midfield, 15 seconds left in the half, 1 timeout remaining. This was his chance to show that he learned from his mistake. And what did he do? He did the exact same thing. He let the clock run out again. This isn't just bad coaching. This is a pattern of incompetence. Let's talk about Glenn's 4th down decision making. In that same Denver game, with the Jets trailing 13-11 late in the 4th quarter, they faced 4th and 8 from Denver's 44-yard line. The Jets kicker Nick Folk had been perfect on the season, 12 for 12 on field goals with a career-long 58-yarder. A 62-yard attempt would have been long, but Folk was having the best season of his career. Glenn decided to go for it instead. Justin Fields dropped back, got sacked, and the game was over. But here's what makes this decision so baffling. After the game, Glenn told reporters,
We were trying to get ourselves in a position to where we can get to that 35, 40 and get a chance to get us a field goal in that situation.
wait, what? You're on the 44-yard line, which would be a 62-yard field goal. You're trying to get to the 35, which would be a 53-yard field goal. Your kicker already made a 58-yarder this season. How does that math even work? According to detailed breakdowns, Glenn has wasted timeouts in critical second half situations in multiple games. In week 1 against Pittsburgh, he burned 2 timeouts early in the 4th quarter, then didn't have them when the Jets needed them. Against Carolina, with a minute 55 left in the game, facing 4th and 10 at their own 14-yard line while trailing by 7, Glenn elected to punt instead of going for it, even though they had all 3 timeouts. Carolina ran out the clock and the Jets never got another chance. Every single week, there's been another head-scratching decision. Every single week, the Jets are losing because of coaching mistakes. And remember, Glenn is supposed to be a defensive guru, but the Jets rank 31st in points allowed. The defense has been a disaster, and it's practically the same defense as last year. And the penalties? In one game against Miami, they were called for 13 penalties for 101 yards. This team is completely undisciplined. Glenn keeps talking about accountability and standards, but players who performed poorly in camp still made the roster and are getting playing time. Now you might be wondering why on earth I'm attacking Glenn so hard. Well, if you haven't heard, Woody Johnson said this on October 21st after the Jets lost to Carolina 13-6.
You know, it's hard when you have a quarterback with a rating that he got. He has the ability, but something just is not jiving.
I just feel so bad for Justin because after their 0-4 start, Justin Fields has been trying to keep his chin up and trying to be optimistic.
I'm probably at a low right now, and I think the old me would feel some certain type of way, but my faith is so rooted in Christ to where it's like I told you guys earlier this week, nothing can break me, and that's just what it is. I mean, I think putting a microphone in Justin Fields' face at this point is just straight up bullying, because the very next week when the media asked him how he felt about being 0-5, this is what Justin Fields said. First time for everything, brother, but like I said, the team is good. Like I said, we have a locker room full of warriors, a locker room full of men that want to get better. No team has ever made the playoffs after 0-5 start. So like I said, we're not basing our life off of statistics.
And then on top of all of this, you have the team's owner saying this.
You know, it's hard when you have a quarterback with a rating that he got.
But then in the same exact breath, Woody Johnson said this about Aaron Glenn.
I do believe in Aaron. I've known Aaron since 1996. I was a fan. I see the way he handles a room. If I were a player, I would respond to him because he's the real deal.
So let me make sure I understand this. Aaron Glenn is 0-7 as a head coach, the worst start in Jets franchise history. He's making catastrophic game management decisions every single week. His defense, which is supposed to be his specialty, ranks 31st in points allowed. His star receiver was screaming at him on national television. But the problem is Justin Fields. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Justin Fields has played well. He hasn't. In 6 games this season, Fields has posted a career-low 32.1 total QBR, ranking 31st out of 33 qualified passers. The Jets have scored just 7 touchdowns in their last 6 games. In week 6 against Denver, they finished with -10 net passing yards. Those numbers are inexcusable. But here's what I keep coming back to. Just last year, this same Justin Fields went 4-2 as a starter for Pittsburgh. He had a career-high 66.3% completion percentage and a 93.9 passer rating. He completed 73.3% of his passes through his first 3 starts, threw 5 passing touchdowns, ran for 5 more, and only threw 1 interception. People in Pittsburgh were writing articles titled, "The Steelers have found their QB of the future in Justin Fields." So what changed? He went from Pittsburgh, where Mike Tomlin has been winning for 18 straight years, where they have one of the best offensive coordinators in Arthur Smith, where they know how to develop quarterbacks, or at the very minimum know how to put them in successful situations, to New York, where the head coach doesn't understand basic clock management, where your best receiver is screaming at the coach because he can't believe the decisions that are being made, and where the entire organization is a complete disaster. And here's what should terrify Jets fans. Analysts are already questioning whether Glenn should be one and done. History shows that 76% of coaches who start 0-6 with a new team never lead that franchise to the playoffs. Only 4 coaches have overcome that start: Dan Campbell, Zach Taylor, Kyle Shanahan, and Jimmy Johnson. But those coaches showed signs of competence even in their losing seasons. Glenn has shown none of that. Glenn has shown no ability to learn from his mistakes. He says he wishes he had done something differently, then makes the exact same mistake the next week. Experts are calling for him to hire someone to help with game management because he clearly can't handle it himself. But here's what's gonna happen. Woody Johnson clearly has a nostalgic element to Aaron Glenn. I mean, you even heard him say it. He's known Aaron Glenn for a very long time, since he was a player for the New York Jets. And on top of this, Woody Johnson doesn't want to look like a meddling, impatient owner after firing Saleh mid-season last year. So Glenn will get a second season. They'll draft a quarterback with a high pick, and that poor kid is going to walk into the same dysfunctional situation. And when he inevitably struggles, they'll blame him too. As for Justin Fields, it sucks, but this might be it for him. At 26 years old, after being a first-round pick, this could be the end of his career as a starting quarterback. If the Jets bench him for Tyrod Taylor, a 36-year-old journeyman, what team is going to give Fields another chance? He'll have failed in Chicago, got replaced in Pittsburgh after going 4-2, and bombed in New York. That's 3 teams in 4 years. But here's the tragedy. Fields might actually be a victim of circumstance. He played for a terrible Bears team early in his career. He looked good in Pittsburgh with great coaching, and now he's playing for an organization where the head coach makes catastrophic decisions every week, where they allegedly make roster decisions based on Madden ratings, where everything is broken from top to bottom. Fields' only chance now is that he could have some sort of Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield renaissance to his career. If he could be selective like Baker Mayfield was and go and try out for a team whose quarterback is on the way out but has a great supporting cast and an offensive genius calling plays and an all-world wide receiver room, then maybe he has a chance. We've already seen this happen with Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and now Daniel Jones this year. Hell, we're currently seeing it with Mac Jones as well. Good organizations know how to build up their talent, but the Jets unfortunately have missed the playoffs for 14 straight years. That's the longest active drought in all of North American professional sports. They've had 9 different starting quarterbacks since 2017. They fired coach after coach and nothing ever changes. They had Robert Saleh and an elite defense, and they fired him. The defense collapsed. They had Aaron Rodgers and elite wide receivers, went 5-12. They had Justin Fields, who was winning in Pittsburgh. Now he's the worst quarterback in all of football. Do you see the pattern here? So yeah, Woody Johnson found his scapegoat in Justin Fields, but the real problem is staring everyone in the face. Aaron Glenn doesn't know how to manage a game. The defense that was supposed to be his specialty is one of the worst in football, and the organization is so dysfunctional that nothing will change until Woody Johnson looks in the mirror and realizes that he is the common denominator in all of this. 20 years from now, when people look back at the Jets' lost decades, they're not going to remember Fields' completion percentage. They're going to remember an owner who couldn't get out of his own way, a coach who was completely overmatched, and a franchise that had everything they needed to succeed except competent leadership. And that's the real tragedy of the Justin Fields experiment. Not that he failed in New York, but that with Aaron Glenn making these decisions, with Woody Johnson running the show, with an organization this broken, he never really had a chance to succeed in the first place. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below, because if you think this is toxic and crazy, what if I told you that there was a starting quarterback who had his previous coach give up on him, had a brand new head coach build up confidence within him, which resulted in him getting a $200 million contract, and to reward bored his head coach, he threw him under the bus. Well, that's exactly what Tua Tagovailoa did this past week. We have a completely separate video on that. I'm going to leave it in the end screen. I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.